Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another Search Lab Digital webinar. Today, of course, is the search pivot from rank to recommendation. Now, there's going to be some caveats to this with some data we're going to share today, but understand that largely for particularly mid funnel and high funnel searches, AI overviews are taking over. And more people are adopting alternative platforms like ChatGPT, and we're going to talk about all the implications of that. If you're not familiar with me, if this is your first time joining a Search Lab webinar, my name is Dane Seville. I am our director of brand experience. I'm the former director of SEO at Search Lab, so I get excited talking to people about search and the evolution of what is happening. So let's talk about the reality of the situation, right? Ranking is no longer the finish line. AI systems don't rank. They understand, they personalize, and then they recommend. The old model is ranking, right? You'd have a fixed order, one finish line to get to, that number one spot for the greatest visibility. But not everyone can have the number one spot, right? You fight for the second or the third or even the fourth or fifth spot to try to maintain some sort of visibility to hopefully get the click and hope for the best. But search is evolving, and so should your strategy. Understand that AI systems adapt and learn. They learn from your chat history. They improve at every interaction to better personalize what they're giving you. They recommend and explain. AI recommends the best options and then explain why. And like I said, they personalize the results. What's recommended for you or for me or for anybody else watching can all be unique, tailored to each person, a different output. And they understand context and understands intent, situation, and preferences. And ultimately, it creates that tailored recommendation. So you want to be discovered? You want to be recommended because you create value, build trust, and earn loyalty online, and ultimately drive impact for your business by doing all of those things. AI systems work differently than traditional search systems, right? Traditional search systems look out in their corpus of documentation and find the right documents that have the right keywords and variations that match the search intent. And there you get your list of blue links. Or if it's a local search, you'll get your local pack and then your blue links. AI systems work quite differently, right? They receive a query. They retrieve contextual information. What is the intent? What are you trying to learn? What is it that you want out of the search you've entered? It starts to generate an initial output. Then it creates synthetic queries, right? It does what's called query fan out. It starts asking other questions to build out the answer that you'll ultimately see. It retrieves documents, and bear in mind, like ChatGPT, when it's a grounded answer, ChatGPT is not a search engine. ChatGPT uses Google's index and Bing's index to collate answers. So go out into those indexes and retrieve documents that align with that contextual information. Then it classifies the query intent and format. It selects specialized LLMs. So just like how Google has multiple algorithms, there are multiple LLMs within the primary sort of algorithmic LLM that goes out and performs different functions based on the intent. It goes through a reasoning chain. It makes sure it is actually reasoning in the right manner. It is leading towards the right output for your question. It synthesizes the final response, but before it gives you an output, it applies what's called user embeddings, meaning it uses your search history. What have been your past interactions so it can better tailor the response to you before it gives you that output. And then it selects the citations it wants to provide to you, and then it gives you that out. It renders the response. So it is a multi-step process that it goes through to ultimately collate the answer and select the right citations based on your intent. And of course, if it's local intent, it's going to select local citations. So what do we do, right? Like, what are the, how do we react? What are the results of that? And because there's a lot of fear mongering out there, there are a lot of folks who are seeing downward trending charts, right? You get on your call with your agency or you meet with your internal team, and man, that traffic chart is just on a downward spiral. But here's the thing: most people are seeing in the vast majority of cases, it's that top of funnel traffic. That performance is dropping. That's where you're seeing that sort of precipitous downfall. Bottom of funnel traffic has maintained pretty steady. There's a lot of stability for when people demonstrate a purchase intent. So here's the thing: that top of funnel traffic typically come from your blogs answering informational queries. Those people aren't ready to convert. What's the difference between if they come to your website or if they see your brand, your name, your logo as a trusted citation in an output? You're still building that brand awareness, right? Maybe they'd land on the blog, they'd engage with the blog, they'd get their answer, maybe they'll remember who you are, but as a citation, you're still getting that same visibility. Yes, you've lost the click, but that click wasn't going to convert anyway. But it's still important to be a recommendation because you want to be part of the conversation. If you're not being recommended, you're not influencing people on their path to purchase. You are not getting in front of people before what I call the event horizon, when they're ready to make the purchase. You want to be visible and build your brand along the way. And that's why content is still so important. But it's not the doom and gloom so many people are trying to make this all out to be. Ranking versus recommendation, right? Ranking was about keywords and getting backlinks, building visibility as a blue link, and ultimately getting clicks from the search engine result pages. The recommendation is about entity understanding, what the systems understand about the who, the what, the where, and the why of your business. Topical authority, demonstrating expertise, whether it's through contributory articles in industry publications online or local publications online, your content on your website, other contributions you can make towards articles. And then ultimately it's inclusion in the synthesis. You want to be part of the output. And we'll talk about how to sort of influence and help ensure you're part of that output. But first, recommendation, right? We're talking about AI overviews, AI mode on Google. We're talking about chat-based answers and ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. Remember, you're being selected, not just being indexed to be a blue link. So that's the objective, to be selected as a trusted resource for the AI output. AI uses many sources to build truth. So you can see the Google icon is the biggest. That's intentional. Google is still by and far away the most important, has the lion's share of all searchers. And there's even evidence. There are studies that are out there that there's a correlation between people using ChatGPT more and then ultimately using Google more, right? People are still turning to Google for those final moments of selection. And those sources of truth, right? They come from citations, having consistency in your name, address, phone number, website. Your location can influence it. Your reviews definitely influence it. And not just reviews on your Google business profile. You want a diverse portfolio of reviews. So for example, in automotive, there's Dealer Rater, there's Digital Dealer, there's the GBP itself. There are multiple places where consumers can leave reviews or information, feedback about your business. So that's important. So think about, besides GBP, besides Yelp, what are other places where people, your consumers, are looking at reviews, leaving reviews, trying to understand who is the best option to give their business to. So reviews are vital. And again, making sure that you have more than just GBPs themselves. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you are mentioned, not just on your website, but across a whole ecosystem. The more brand mentions you can get, even off of your website, are great. That includes your social media profiles. That includes, again, any times that you contribute something to your towards your community. You sponsor an event, having that event mention your business, describe your business, not just the business name, but make sure you have a description built out that you can send to folks that describe your unique selling propositions. So don't just focus on the website alone, focus on getting mentions across the web and other trusted sites as well. So AI overviews. Like I said, we kind of focus a little more on Google because, again, Google is still the lion's share of the market. So did a study, and I have some very preliminary results I wanted to share that's very related to the idea of recommendation and AI outputs. So I conducted a study of 1,600 different search queries, and I know there's more intents than just transactional, commercial, and informational, but I sort of bucketed those various intents into those 10,000 foot view buckets. Transactional, I focused on local search terms since we work with local businesses. But then commercial and informational. Yes, local businesses can show up as a blue link or a recommended citation in commercial and informational searches, even when they're not necessarily localized, such as if someone is comparing a Ford to a Chevy. They might not be saying compare the Ford to Chevy in my market, so it's not necessarily localized, but businesses with the right type of content can still show up in those. And I use those 1,600 queries across three distinct markets. A small market, Pensacola, which is actually where I'm located, Kansas City, so a little bit bigger, and then Dallas, a much bigger metro. So I wanted to get sort of a diverse insights on how AI overviews are influenced even based on market and not just generally speaking, and some interesting things. So first of all, Google AI overviews populate 97% of the time with informational searches. Sometimes people be looking for a specific specification, like dimensions, size, and so the AI overview wouldn't populate. Instead, there would just be a knowledge graph, and it would just lay out the answer. So there were specific queries when the query was very precise in what they were looking for, that there wasn't necessarily a need for a summary overview to give you the answer. Commercial, 78.9% of the time an AI overview populated. And transactional, this is where it got interesting. An average, so again, it's across the three, this is averages across the three markets, 1,600 queries, 10.5% in transactional. Now, here is where the distinction comes from. Here in Pensacola, and this was particularly, again, more for automotive, but it will be true across industries. So in Pensacola, for certain brands of certain automotive brands, there's only one dealership in my area. And so for those searches, served up an AI overview to say, hey, here's the person in your market, but here are other alternatives that are not all that far away. So because my choice was limited to one, Google's overview determined that I would probably want other options, and so collated all that information into a summary. Those same searches, however, in Dallas and Kansas City, particularly in Dallas, because Dallas has multiple options for every brand, it did not give an AI overview as the typical local pack and blue links. So what does that tell us? Number one, creating informational content is important to be recommended, because if you're not creating informational content, you're not going to be part of the overview, and they're firing 97% of the time. You want to make sure you're crafting content to, again, answer people's questions on their entire path to purchase. Commercial, hey, when people are mid-funnel, it is growing in terms of how often AI overviews populate. And lastly, transactional, clearly Google has not figured out how to really apply their AI overviews and AI systems towards local search yet, but it is growing. 5 months ago, that average across three markets was only 3%. Now, 3% fire in Dallas alone, transactional searches. So it is growing. They are continuing to refine it. But for now, we have the traditional ecosystem of search results pages that we've been accustomed to for a while. But understand that AI mode by default is coming very quickly. So we need to be prepared. Citations. Again, across all those queries, all of those markets, 49% of the time, even when it wasn't necessarily local search, local businesses were cited. So that tells us that there are many businesses, local businesses, filling the void. There are consumer questions that are not being answered well by major publications, right? So there's still opportunities in the marketplace to provide those answers. And Google trusts local businesses. 45% of all those citations were in the top 5 results, and 59% were in the top 10. So clearly, at least showing up in those top 10 results more often than not will allow you to be used as a citation. So there is some correlation here between ranking at least in the top 10 and being cited in Google's AI overview outputs. So performing well in search can clearly help you have a better chance at showing up as a recommendation. I wanted to share this. This necessarily isn't about AI systems and AI overviews, but I want to share this because this is important. This is bottom of funnel searches. 98% of the time, people also ask populated. 17% of the time, discussions and forums were in near the top of the results. Video packs, and 41%, 11%, and 41% of the time, paid ads. How about middle of the funnel? Middle of the funnel. 100% of the time, people also ask populated. 54% of the time, discussions forums showed up near the top of the results. And 71% of the time, there was a video pack. And top of the funnel, 100% of the time, people also ask. 39% discussions forums, 53% video packs. So it seemed that top of funnel informational searches, there are more and more times that Google is saying videos are the best way to serve this information. Again, people scan, they don't read, but people watch video. And even short form video carousel showed up. So why am I mentioning this? Why is this relevant to the discussion of AI, particularly with Google's AI overviews? You're competing not just against being a recommendation. Those blue links are getting pushed down further and further because you're also competing against other search result features. Meaning you need to be a recommendation because sometimes only the number 1 blue link showed up on page 1 of Google. And by the time you got to the number 2 blue link, it was on page 2. And we all know about page 2. That's where people get buried, right? It's where you die. So you're competing not just to be a recommendation. You have to be part of the recommendation. You have to be part of the conversation because those blue links are being overtaken by all of these other search features as well. So it's highly competitive environment more than ever. So the role of SEO. I know there's GEO, AI SEO, all these different things, and yes, there is. Like I said, search is evolving. Your strategy needs to also. But the idea that GEO or AI SEO is completely separated from SEO is just not true. You still need to do fundamental SEO to show up in citations, right? You hear about conversational search. People that go on ChatGPT type in more and more words than ever. We've been talking about conversational search and SEO, natural language processing, for a long time. Content optimization and medium optimization, your title tags, clear headings, having only one H1 heading, having supporting headings, having clear structure on the page, having that content optimized in your first paragraph, your first sentence, addressing the explicit need the consumer has. Bear in mind, even AI crawlers don't have infinite budget, right? Google, OpenAI, they all use resources and it takes money to crawl the web. So it's not that they can crawl the full depth of every single page of content across the internet, particularly AI systems. They're much speedier. They're looking for the answer that they need. And so the better you can format your content to address that immediate need higher up in the content, the more likely you'll be cited as a source because you're not bearing the lead. You're answering the question. And then medium. Now, of course, like I said, Google searches, SERPs are diversifying. There's a growing trend of more and more YouTube videos being naturally integrated into the AI overview. So if the medium is video, you want to create video, right? If that's what Google is serving, because that's what Google says how people prefer to consume it, we don't want to write a text blog about it. We want to create video around it. Entity building, right? Having your social profiles, having your GBP, having your information on directories, local link building. So getting links from other local businesses, getting mentions from other local businesses. Now we're going beyond that, right? I said earlier about contributing articles towards local publications online, industry publications online, getting other mentions, getting quoted by reporters. How are other ways that you can build the entity understanding of the who, the what, the where, and the why of your business? Information architecture, HTML, and also schema markup. Been talking about that in SEO for a long time, having clean code, having data layers like schema markup to help disambiguate the information. And then I already mentioned this. I just want to underscore it, NAP consistency. Again, that consistency of name, address, phone number, website is important. And beyond AI systems, let's be honest, it's for people really more than anything. If somebody goes to call you and it's the wrong number, if they click directions and it takes them to the wrong place, that's an awful experience. So make sure that you have that consistency in that information for people to consume. So what to do, right? I mean, beyond SEO, like beyond just general SEO, like how can we really focus more on AI systems? And really, it's still tied largely to SEO, right? The relevance of your content to search intent is vital. You want to make sure that you have content that best aligns with the what people want and the how that they've searched for it. I see this so often, not necessarily with running shoes, but in many businesses, right? The example here is the query is, what are the best running shoes for flat feet, right? And you want to create content that makes shoe recommendations, that has reviews and comparisons, that talks about benefits for flat feet, sizing and fit tips, a buying guide. That is addressing people's need to understand what are the best running shoes for flat feet. But so often I see content misaligned, right? For purchase intent searches, we'll see content like this: the history of running shoes, the evolution of sneakers, the timeline of footwear, old brands and models, generic information. You're not addressing the intent, right? So for misaligned in how we craft content with matching it to the search intent, you're not going to be that recommendation because, again, you're not addressing the precise need the consumer has. So AI recommends content that directly and comprehensively answers the user's question. Match the intent. Be the best possible answer. And for local search, be the best possible answer in your market. Here's the key term: comprehensively. You want to comprehensively answer. I keep telling people there is now this trend for, because of AI, content at scale. Well, garbage input, garbage output. And agencies doing content at scale are doing garbage input. So it's not the matter of frequency, it's a matter of depth. Depth of content is greater than frequency of publishing content. So again, directly and comprehensively answer the user's question. Absolutely vital. How about clarity and structure of content is key? I was already actually talking about this. You want to have clear headings that answer key sub-questions. So make sure it's called query fan-out, or Google also calls it information gain. You need to anticipate and build upon questions that people haven't thought yet to ask that they're going to, right? We need to anticipate the user's next most important need based on the explicit query they entered into whatever platform they use to conduct a search to get an answer. So clear headings that answer key sub-questions that are all cohesive, all aligned in building that relevance of content. You want to have short paragraphs, bullets, Break it up with tables, lists, other visuals. Remember, people scan, they don't read. And yes, by doing short paragraphs, bullets, tables, and lists, you make it more easily parsable for those AI systems to extract it, to find it, and extract it, and use it in the synthesized outputs. Too often I see large blocks of text, paragraph after paragraph. Number one, people are going to read it. Number two, you're burying the most important information around just lots of words. Be short, be punchy, keep the writing and content intense, keep people moving, keep the crawler moving in that direction, right? We want to make it engaging content. And make sure you have a logical flow from start to finish. I often see content that sort of digresses, gets way off point, and then comes back to the point. Make sure there's a logical flow. Number one, address the most explicit need first. What is it the person needs to know based on the query? And then what are the next most important questions that they're going to need answers to influence them in their next decision or maybe in their next search? I say be the tour guide. Guide them on their path, right? So AI prefers content that is easy to read, scan, and understand. And then, of course, because you're trying to still earn that click from whatever source, make it so that it's engaging for people to land on that page and get real satisfaction, real unique value, real unique perspective out of the content that you've created. This is important, of course. Your business must have entity recognition. So, AI needs to understand who you are and what you offer. I keep saying the who and even why. Why your business? That comes from your website. That'll come from, again, your Google business profile. That'll come from those other directories you're on. That comes from delineating what your products and services are, your location when you're local businesses, social profiles, getting mentioned in other articles. When you have things worthy of a press release, right? Some sort of award won, some sort of recognition. Craft a press release. Push it out through PR Newswire. It's not that expensive. There's something called Help a Reporter Out, HARO, HARO. They send out emails twice a day, every day, looking for people to give quotes around a variety of topics. Contribute. Be there because they're gonna have information about who you are and your business. So make sure you're creating conversations. Look into discussions in forums like Reddit and Quora, because guess what? Google AI overviews use Reddit. It's ChatGPT, cites Reddit. Start conversations. One of the things that I talked about in the past is there's actually a dealership down here in Pensacola, and they're mentioned multiple times on Reddit. Why? Because they created an experience that was different than any other experience that car shoppers had. What happens is at this dealership, when you buy a car, they give you a fresh made apple strudel because the people that own the dealership also own a German bakery. And you would not believe how many people love this apple strudel. It's creating conversations. Then guess what? They mention that, and then they talk about what a great experience they had at the dealership. So it's not just about the apple strudel. They still go on to talk about everything else about the whole process of buying the car there. Right? You're building good rapport through these user-generated content channels. So again, contribute to articles. If you have an industry publication, a local publication that has a digital footprint, are there ways you can contribute? Can you help reporters getting quotes and answers? Do you contribute to your community? Do you sponsor events? Do you hold even maybe it's a free 4th of July barbecue, right? That you can write content about or have a local reporter write content about? Are there things happening at your business, again, that are PR worthy? Distribute that. Social content, right? And Google actually cites Facebook quite a bit as well in their Google AI overviews. Are you distributing your content? Make sure your content is being distributed across all of your channels. And then are you repurposing the content? Are you taking some things and reformatting them to match the way that consumers on that particular platform like to consume their content? So maybe it's taking a portion of text and turning it into an infographic for Instagram. Maybe it's just posting a link to the blog on Facebook. Maybe it's creating a short video for TikTok. Whatever it might be, make sure you have distribution as well to hit different channels, to have different entities built out. So that way, AI systems can more easily recognize your business. Very important. So, your business must have authority signals. Again, this kind of also relates to the last point. We talk about brand mentions, right? In blogs. Are local bloggers? Are you a local real estate agent? Is there a local travel blogger? Get a mention. Or maybe not even a local travel blogger, a travel blogger. Is there something you can contribute for them to have a really unique perspective on when you're traveling, how to identify good real estate, good markets? News. Is there anything newsworthy about what's happening at your business? Again, directories and communities. Down here in Pensacola, again, I'll refer to Pensacola. There's a Pensacola News Journal. There's What's Happening Pensacola, and there's a Pensacola Locals magazine. And of course, free of charge, local business owners can write articles for this magazine, and it's both print and online. So even offline mention, right? If people see your business in something in print and they look your business up online, you get more direct traffic, right? If people are searching for your brand by name, that's really good. That's an authority signal because people aren't just happening to discover you. People have found you and they want to learn more about you. Strong brand search right there. I kind of jumped the gun on that point. Strong brand search, volume and engagement. So when they search for you by name or they enter your domain directly into the search bar, are there then engagement signals that they're getting what they needed out of learning about who you are, learning about your products or services, learning about the why you? I've mentioned this already, positive reviews on trusted platforms. So again, I know a couple of these points have been made repeatedly, but that's how important they are. We cannot stress enough the importance of reviews, particularly. And then AI systems links matter a bit less than traditional search. But remember, as we said, there's a clear correlation between ranking well and more likelihood of being a citation. So links are still one of the top 3 ranking factors for Google. So that means those links from those reputable websites or those local websites can help you perform better in search. Authority signals equal trust, and trust equals more likely to be recommended by AI. And so that is sort of the crux of it. Now, 5th point, ensuring your business information is consistent across the web. Again, I know I've mentioned it, cannot emphasize that enough. So AI pulls data from many sources, and that consistency will build confidence, and it'll also help avoid hallucinations or misinformation delivered to consumers in the outputs. So ensuring your business information is consistent across the web is very important. That again, right? That's your local directories, Yellow Pages, Facebook, Yelp, Google Business Profile, and so many more that are industry specific as well. Again, that consistency of your naming convention. Just the other day, I was talking to a small business and their website had one name. Their GBP had another name. Their Instagram had a different name. Then their Better Business Bureau profile had one of the same 3 names. And then their Twitter profile had one of the same 3 names. And then another source had a different name. Make sure it is consistent. So especially if you go through any sort of rebranding, make sure you have your ducks in a row. Things are buttoned up. Again, consistent name, address, phone number, and website everywhere helps AI recommend your business with confidence. So none of these are piecemeal, right? It's one big picture. These are all the things that you need to be doing in order to help ensure that AI systems will recommend you and your content. So again, to recap, relevance of your content to search intent is vital. Make sure that you understand. Again, I want to caveat this too. People are still so focused on keywords and often keyword ranking. So, number one, remember, AI systems don't rank, they recommend. But number two, when you think about the variety of ways that people search for things, and when you consider the fact that I think the average word count of a ChatGPT search is what, 40 words? How does one keyword or even three keywords capture all the different variations? You want to build topics. So when you think about intent, what is the intent of the search? What is thus going to be the topic of the page? Every page should be a single topic addressing an intent. Then you can use keywords to build out the understanding of, again, the variations of how people search, language you can use on the page, in the meta description, in the title tag, structuring the content maybe based on volume, because that demonstrates search behaviors. So keywords play a role, but you want to go beyond keywords. Also, do research in looking at reviews. How are people naturally speaking about your business, your products, or services, or even your products or services that your competitors offer the same of? What are they saying on your competitors' reviews? You can understand how people are naturally talking and what's most important to them. And again, same with those discussions and forums. How are people actually talking about what you offer, if not your business specifically? So collate all of that. You can use tools like Also Ask, or there's people Also Ask scrapers, Answer the Public. There are a number of different things that give you ideas on what people are continuing to search for based on that primary intent. You collate all that and you can build out a really good, robust piece of content that comprehensively answers the question, but that is still very narrow in scope on the actual intent. Clarity and structure of content is key. Again, that first heading, that first sentence, that first paragraph should be directly intended to address the explicit intent of the search and give them that answer. And then you build upon that by understanding information gain. Again, anticipate what else they need to know and build out that content. Again, clear heading structures, tables, list visuals, short, punchy paragraphs, numbered and unnumbered lists when possible. Entity recognition, make sure that you have consistency and you have breadth of having mentions and clear information of the who, the what, the why. Your brand, your business must have authority signals. So again, get those brand mentions. Do whatever you can to contribute to being an expert in your field. EAT principles: experience, expertise, authority, trustworthiness. Now, if you work with an agency, it's really important these days to be very strong partners. And your agency should be asking you clarifying questions, deeper questions about your business. So for example, if we are talking about for experience, we're talking about if you're a dentist, maybe it's preferred products that you use, equipment you use. Maybe there's a specific strategy you apply, right? If you're a car dealer, what are the features that are the coolest that people are talking most about that you think are really intense or new, and how are those applied? So collect collaboration to build that authority through experience is going to be really important, because your agency is not going to have the experience you have in your industry, but they can parlay what you share with them into highly specific non-commodity content, meaning it's not just generic. It can't just be easily replicated. It has true unique insights that you can build that authority with through your content. But then again, blogs, news, directories, communities. How can you be involved and engaged? Build that brand search. So again, go off digital as well, right? Contribute any way that you can to get people wanting to search for your specific name in search. Positive reviews give people a great experience so that they're leaving positive reviews for you. And then again, high quality links. Make sure you're still doing link building, because again, the better you perform in search, the greater likelihood it is that you're going to be cited in those recommendations as well. So that's sort of the whole summary, right? We kind of went through each one and pieced it all together. Yes, there is some crossover, but these are all the things we need to do to make sure that AI understands us and recommends us. Because again, you're going to build that brand awareness. That way, when people are ready to purchase, they're looking for you by name, not just looking for a general product or service or solution. So, with that said, there's a QR code. If you're watching and you would like a strategy call to talk about and assess your current positioning with AI. Now, no one can tell you truly how often you show up in AI outputs. No one can do that. There's things like share of voice, which there's a lot of conjecture there. There is data that's inputted, but really just understanding what does AI understand about your business, and is there a gap around the primary products or services that you offer compared to your competitors? So if you'd like some sort of assessment, a strategy to talk over, scan that QR code. We're happy to have that conversation with you. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment and take a sip of water so you can pull up your phones and take a picture, and we'll conclude today. All right. That's it, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our webinar series. I hope you gleaned some value out of that. Of course, you can always reach out to me, dane.seville@searchlabdigital.com, if you have any questions or feedback for me. And thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.